So the US is winning the AI race, right? I mean, that's what every headline tells you. American companies have the best models, they've got the most funding, all the momentum. But, after digging through a ton of Stanford research, Federal Reserve data, and even direct testimony from top tech leaders, a very, very different story starts to take shape. The country that's quietly building the most powerful long-term advantage, well, it might not be who you think. So let's break it down.
So that's the big question, isn't it? Who is really winning? If we just forget the headlines for a minute and actually look at the hard data, the answer gets a whole lot more complicated than you've probably been led to believe.
In this slide, it really just lays out the core of the whole competition perfectly. On the surface, yeah, the US has this commanding lead in the stuff you see, the blockbuster models, the massive venture capital checks. But underneath all that, China is playing a totally different game. They're focusing on things that compound over time, right? Industrial scale, energy infrastructure, and just mass deployment. It's like a classic tortoise and the hare story, but, with semiconductors and power plants.
To really get what's happening here, we have to kind of reframe the entire competition. And what's so fascinating is that two of the most powerful voices in AI, Elon Musk and Sam Altman, they look at the exact same situation and see two completely different wars being fought.
Okay, so Musk's view is it's brutally simple. For him, AI leadership isn't about who has the cleverest algorithm. No, it's an industrial scaling problem. He argues that AI compute is basically becoming an electricity problem. And his prediction, just based on energy infrastructure trends, is that China's mind-boggling ability to build power plants gives it a nearly insurmountable long-term advantage. Now, Sam Altman, he sees it differently. But his take is almost more alarming. He talks about a multi-axis competition where the lead is split all over the place. He's really blunt about it. Yeah, the US leads with the fanciest, most advanced closed-source models. But he says China is already winning in open-source AI. They're winning on who can provide the cheapest model inference, and they're winning on the sheer speed of building out the infrastructure you need.
And when you smash Musk's energy idea together with Altman's diffusion idea, you get this single, really powerful thesis. This race might not be won by whoever invents the next great algorithm. It's probably going to be won by the nation that industrializes AI first, the one that masters the entire stack, from the power grids all the way to the factory floors. And that reframe, well, it changes everything.
And this industrial race, it has accelerated incredibly fast. I mean, back in 2018, China was laying out these plans to turn AI into actual manufactured goods, drones, smart vehicles, that sort of thing. But the real fireworks started in 2022, when the US hit China with those major chip export controls. And China's response wasn't to back down, it was to double down hard on open source. And now, here in 2024, you've got models like DeepSeek V3 that are rivaling the best closed systems, which is kicking off a full-on industrial mobilization from giants like Xiaomi and Baidu.
Okay, so let's get into the real data. This race isn't about a single metric. It's a stack, right? It's got multiple layers. And when you actually look at all 7 of them together, the true picture starts to emerge.
So let's start right at this top of the stack, frontier models. According to Stanford's AI Index, U.S. institutions produced 40 notable models in 2024. That's more than double China's 15. So on this particular scoreboard, the U.S. has a clear, no doubt about it lead in raw innovation.
And then there's the money. I mean, wow. U.S. private investment in AI is just staggering. Over $109 billion last year. That's more than 10 times what China invested. So, okay, more models and way, way more money. Case closed, right? Well, not so fast.
Because here is the critical turn in this entire story. The actual performance gap between the top Chinese and American models, it's shrinking. They're reaching near parity on key benchmarks. And you got to ask yourself, once the models are all good enough, does the race stay about who has the best lab, or does it become about who has the best distribution, the lowest cost, and the fastest speed? This slide right here gets to the absolute heart of Musk's argument, energy. China has more than double the installed electricity generation capacity of the US. But even more important is that they're adding new capacity faster than the US can even get the permits approved. And since AI scaling is absolutely 100% limited by energy, every major lab admits this, this is a massive, massive structural advantage for China.
But let's be fair. On existing high-end compute, the US still dominates today. At Federal Reserve synthesis estimates, the US controls about 74% of the world's high-end AI supercomputer capacity, with China way down at just 14%. So the US has the infrastructure right now. The real question is about the future build-out.
And this is where that energy advantage just fuels the very next layer, deployment. Last year alone, China installed over half of the entire world's industrial robots. Now, this isn't just about factory automation. This is about creating a gigantic real-world data loop. Think about it. You deploy robots, you collect proprietary data that nobody else has, you use that data to improve your AI models, and then you deploy again. It is a compounding advantage in the physical world.
And finally, we get to the dimension that has Washington deeply, deeply worried: open source. Chinese models are just dominating the usage rankings on platforms like Hugging Face, and this isn't just a theoretical edge. This is happening right now. We are already seeing Western software companies building their commercial products on top of Chinese open source models. It's a strategy of global diffusion, and believe me, it is working.
So given this really complex picture, how is each side trying to win? Well, their strategies couldn't be more different. Each one is playing to their own unique strengths and, of course, their weaknesses.
Inside the US, there's a huge divide on strategy. On one side, you've got Sam Altman, who's basically arguing to win by diffusion. Get American AI products everywhere, make the entire world default to our ecosystem. But on the other side, you have leaders like Anthropic's Dario Amodei, and he's arguing for restriction. Use strict export controls to keep advanced AI in the hands of democratic nations. It's a really fundamental split on the best way to go forward.
China's strategy, on the other hand, is way more cohesive. Look, they're not trying to beat the US at its own game of building the biggest, most expensive models. Instead, they are laser-focused on winning the industrial race through distribution, cost, and real-world integration. They're leveraging their mass deployment for data, they're using regulation to shape global trust, and this is critical. They are treating US chip restrictions not as a setback, but as the motivation to build their own self-sufficient industry.
So, where does this all leave us? Well, when you start to assemble all the pieces, you realize this race is far, far from over. In fact, it's a lot closer and a whole lot more interesting than the headlines would have you believe.
So here it is, the final scorecard, and it really summarizes the whole situation perfectly. The US holds clear leads in the things you see today: the most advanced models, the most private investment, the most high-end supercomputers. But China holds clear leads in the things that compound over time: energy capacity, industrial deployment, and open source adoption. And like we saw, the actual performance of the models is already getting close to parity. So the big takeaway here is this: the US lead is real, but it might be incredibly fragile. It's a lead in the present, while China's advantages are clearly built for the future. They are gaining ground so fast in the areas that build on themselves, creating this powerful momentum that is actively eating away at the US's current position.
Which brings us to our final, decisive question for 2026. The race isn't just about who has the best algorithm today. The real contest is this: who can scale the entire AI stack, from the power plants to the AI-powered products, and win global adoption first? That is the race that truly matters. And right now, the winner is anything but certain.